With no one to talk to or no one to help him out of the situation he was in, Peter would often go out for walks on his own around the campus. His mind was filled with regret and Layla's words. In a way, he felt like he should have been punished for what he had done, yet Layla had just left him there. He felt even less significant than before. He wasn't even worth being hit. After walking around school a couple of times, he decided to head back to his dorm room as usual. But as he entered, he had nearly experienced the shock of his life. The two people who he had thought had gone missing, possibly dead on another planet, were in the room. "Guys," Peter started to say with his eyes watering up. "Get out!" Vorden shouted as he pointed at the door. "What?" "I said get out!" Vorden shouted again. "If you don't get out, Peter, I don't know what I will do to you." "But this is my room as well," he cried. "I don't care. Ask them to change rooms, but you are not staying here." Peter then looked to Quinn for help, hoping he would say something, but Quinn just turned his head away as his body was shaking. He didn't like what was happening, but it needed to be done. What Peter had done was unforgivable. He and Vorden could have died, and if he really was still a level 1, he would have been killed by the first Rataclaw he had seen. Peter stood there, still in shock. He didn't know what to do. As soon as he saw the two of them, he was hoping everything would go back to how it was, before everything had happened. He wanted to tell them how sorry he was, but they wouldn't even let him speak. Vorden then went to his desk and grabbed a book, chucking it toward Peter, hitting the wall and falling onto the ground. "The next one is going for your face if you don't leave," said Vorden. "Peter, please just go," Quinn said. When Quinn spoke those words, it finally hit him. There was no redemption for him. No matter what he said or did, or even why, they had made up their minds. He was no longer their friend. He opened the door and closed it behind him as he left. Looking around, there was nowhere left to go. It was already night time. It was nearly curfew, so he couldn't go outside, and all the other parts of the building would be closed now. With nowhere to go and no one to rely on, he stayed in the dorm room hallway, curled up into a ball on the ground, and cried himself to sleep. The next day, when the two woke up in their beds, they could hear a commotion going on outside. As they opened the door, they could see a group had gathered just outside their room, and they were all circling around him. "What happened to him? Look, the floors are wet underneath. Did he cry himself to sleep outside? I thought I could hear something last night." A boy from the group then knelt down and grabbed Peter by the hair, lifting his head off the ground and waking him up. "So, it was you that was waking me up in the middle of the night," the boy said. Before deciding to do anything, the boy looked at Peter's watch and noticed he was a level 1. The boy himself was only a level 2. So he took this chance to show everyone he wasn't at the bottom of the food chain. "If you're going to stay out here like a dog, then you need to learn to shut up," he said as he lifted his hand and slapped Peter across the face. Peter was already defeated at this point. He didn't care what happened to him. What were a few slaps? This pain was nothing. What was the point of fighting back? He would only get hurt more. The only people who had bothered to help him in the past, he had tried to kill them. This is what Peter wanted. He wanted to be punished for his actions. As the boy lifted his hand to slap Peter again, he felt something grab his wrist. Then, before the boy could even turn his head, he saw a fist right in front of his eyes. The punch was so powerful, the sound of his jaw cracking could be heard, and the boy immediately was knocked out and collapsed to the ground. As Peter looked up through his watery vision, he could see Quinn standing there with a look of anger on his face. "I didn't do that for you," he said. "If anyone was treating someone like a piece of shit like that, I would have done the same." Without even looking at Peter, Quinn walked off with Vorden and headed to the canteen. "Hey, who was that?" "I'm not sure, but he was kind of hot. I don't remember seeing him in school, do you?" "No, me either." After breakfast, the group was to go to their homeroom class for the usual morning lesson, before heading to combat classes. Everyone sat in their usual seats, which meant that Vorden and Quinn were sat next to each other, with Peter on the side. "They really did come back. I heard they got pushed into a portal by some second year. It's amazing they managed to survive." All of the students were talking about the two who had gone missing for a few days. It wasn't the talk around the school, but was talked about frequently in Dell's class, since the students belonged to their class. Dell had finally entered the room with a smile on his face, as he prepared to give an announcement to the whole class. "Good morning, everyone. Now that everything's back to normal again, I am proud to announce that your first portal outing date has been confirmed and will now be moved to next week. So please prepare yourselves as best you can. Oh, and remember to practice with your teammates. The same teams that were registered before will be used for this outing." This meant that Peter would be on the same team as the others. Outside, somewhere in the world, there was a city named Dreamland. The place was condensed, packed with buildings and skyscrapers everywhere, and there didn't seem to be a place of open land that could be seen. A large wall also stood surrounding it, around 100 meters high. On top of the walls were several turrets and mechs, standing guard day and night, patrolling for any danger. Because of these things, Dreamland was considered one of the safest cities to live in, but it came at a cost. Security was a significant issue, and so was habitable land on Earth. After the war, many of the old cities were obliterated and destroyed. Too much damage had been done. Parts of land gone missing, blown into small pieces, too small for humans to live on. This was what caused the humans to create shelters on other planets. It was a lot cheaper than living on Earth, and often many travelers from different associations and families would live there protecting the place. But planet Earth would always be home to many, and it was hard for them to leave. They hated the fact that if they lived on another planet, they might have to live in fear of beasts attacking them at any moment. Because of this, the few places left on Earth were only for the very top. There were only two ways to live in the city of Dreamland, to either be really rich or to become a part of the True Dream family, swearing absolute loyalty to the leader and doing whatever was asked. In the center of the city, there was a skyscraper bigger than any of the others around it. The whole building had been made of glathrium, the hardest material known in space. Inside, on the very top floor, was a bald-headed man in a nicely fitted suit, sitting down in his large armchair at his desk. His name was Jack Truedream, the leader of one of the big four families. Just then a female wearing business attire had entered the room. "Sir, there has been a report that one of our family members has died." "What rank was the traveler?" Jack asked. "Rank D, sir." Once students had left the academy, they were able to become travelers and either work for a faction, family, or as a freelancer. The world government issued these travelers with a rank depending on the difficulty of tasks they can complete. At some point, power levels didn't matter too much on the outside. The attribute that high-level beast gear gave you was much more useful. It was more important how you used your ability in conjunction with the beast gear. When starting out as a traveler, everyone started as a rank F. The more tasks you would complete, the more points you would be awarded. Usually it would take a couple years between each rank to level up. Ranks went from F all the way to A+.
Subscribe to the Pocket FM Blockbuster YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notifications. Check out our channel for more exciting shows.